Welcome back. And of course, we've just started our conversation without you. We're gonna try to catch you up at this point in time, but that's just because this is such an exciting event coming out of the Belize Tourism Board. It's their third annual digital summit, and we have with us this morning to tell us more about this event, digital marketing manager for the Belize Tourism Board, Minor LaRue, and we have motivational speaker and blogger from Nomadic Dreamer, Sarah Dodd. Good morning and welcome.
Good
Thank
morning.
you. Good morning.
Yeah.
So this is the third one for BTB, the third digital summit. So tell us what we can expect this year. What's new, what's different, and how it's grown by, 3.
Well, I think a lot of new exciting things this year. We have a couple of great presenters coming. Like every year, I don't want to say this one is bigger and better. I think we just been able to fine tune it and make the presentations on point and to what their stakeholders are looking for and inspire them to do a lot more with the digital platforms that we have.
Now, since you first held this event, what has been the growth in terms of interest from your stakeholders?
Wow, I could tell you there has been a great interest in growth. This year alone, we've been getting questions like, oh, is it only for people in tourism? Like, can we attend? We've gotten the wider scope of the audience, even though our focus is still the tourism industry. I think there's this digital transformation happening outside of just the industry, which is important.
And I think what I take away from that is that everybody who is on the internet, that they're pushing their brand, they're marketing who they are, and that's a very important concept that I think that we can learn at the summit. Tell us more about how people will be encouraged to push their brand. And I know that I want to get to you, Miss Nomadic Dreamer, to tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I think that's one of the two key things that the summit does for stakeholders. One is to inspire them and challenge them to do more, because a lot of times we find that they're doing a lot of the things, but they're not really doing the right things. And it's not about volume. It's about doing 1 or 2 quick wins that really make a big splash. For the BTB, we've seen several of those in the past couple of years. With Simone Biles, with Breaking Bad. We've learned, and it has taken us a process to get where we're at, and we want our stakeholders to start, venturing into doing stuff, and not just the BTB, because then we'll have a larger voice, a branding voice for Belize, for positive news, right?
Definitely. Tell us how you got into the whole blogosphere, Sarah.
I started in 2015. I started traveling across the world. I've done 67 countries in the last couple of years.
Wow.
And so I just started, I wanted to share with my family and friends my experience, so I started writing about it. And then after a while, I started getting involved in speaking, and I just had a lot of opportunities come my way, and I started growing my following, and people started loving these adventure activities that I was doing across the world by myself. And so one thing led to the next, and here I am. I've grown my following, I've traveled to many different places, and now I can really offer some helpful insight to people in the world of tourism.
Definitely.
Now, Sarah, this is such an important part of the conversation, because I think we are all attracted, especially to travel bloggers, because we can live vicariously through you all as you roam around the world. But what's important is the message, and being online is kind of hit and miss. You can either build a connection, or people just kind of browse through and move on. What do you think has been part of your success in being able to get your followers and grow into an international speaker as well?
One word: consistency. This has been the biggest thing. You can't just post one time a week or one time every 2 weeks or a month. It is consistency over a period of time. People want immediate results. They want to have this big blog, because when you start, you just compare yourself to the other bloggers, and you're like, how am I ever going to be at a person with 100,000 followers when I have 1 follower, and it's my mother. So it's like you get overwhelmed by that, but it's just one thing. You have to just have consistency and just get people to trust you, because trust is really important, and provide good content.
Definitely.
And what would you say, how would you define your voice in the blogging world?
My voice is, I am completely different than all of them because I am focused around motivations and connections between countries and cultures. So that is my focus, is connections and adventure activities. I love that as well. So I promote courage. That's what I want, because I'm a girl, like I said, traveling across the world alone. My goal is to travel to all the countries of the world and do it completely alone. So that is my message. I inspire other people to just, wow, if this girl can just travel across the world and do all this, I'm gonna go do it. And that's what I inspire.
Now, I'm really into traveling. I've definitely not been to 67 countries, but when I do travel, I travel by myself because I feel like you get to experience more. You don't have to wait on other people and their schedules and what they want to do, and you're a bit more adventurous, actually. You try more things. What are some of the tips you would say that you would give on your blog, for instance, on how you could travel and be safe while traveling? Because I think that's a big concern for a lot of, especially women.
I made a lot of mistakes in the way, so I definitely have experience on this. It's really just about making sure that you present yourself the way you present yourself. For example, the way you dress.
Yeah.
You can't, talking on your cell phone through the streets, these type of things. You just have to use common sense, and that really will get you such a long ways.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, is just how you present yourself in your day-to-day life. And don't walk around with a big fancy watch on.
Yeah.
Don't try to call all the attention to yourself by your clothes and everything. You have to maintain a different, I mean, if you're a very outgoing person at home, maybe you just need to calm it down and not be so, look at me, everyone in the street. Like, you have to be a different way, change your way a bit.
Develop a sense of cultural sensitivity as well, I'd imagine.
Cultural sensitivity is the key. You really have to get to know the cultures and understand their way of living and adapt. You can't go into your country or another country and just say, this is my way of living, I'm gonna do this and this and this, whenever it's completely different than their way. You have to go into their country, you have to respect them. If they are more covered up, you need to cover yourself up. If they're doing something, you don't have to agree with what they're doing, but you have to respect it, and you have to just go along with what they're doing.
So Sarah, tell us about when you were asked to participate in the BTB's Digital Summit, what your reaction was.
I was really excited. I mean, I had talked to him just for a little while, and he was telling me about it, and I thought it was a really great thing because I love to inspire people. That's my job, and so I want to encourage people to bring bloggers on board because they're so valuable. Some people have had bad experiences, yes, but out of 100 great experiences, there's maybe one bad experience, but it's truly a valuable thing for people. And if they can get on board with the right blogger, with a good mission, we literally can change the world.
Definitely. And how did that connection happen?
Wow. Well, I think we met. Sarah actually reached out to me first. We have acquaintance from the. We're both friends with Alan, who's a digital marketing manager in Honduras, and she had been planning her trips here in Central America, and we started talking. And I said, well, I have this great summit right around the time you're going to be here. Why don't we do that while you're traveling in Belize? So, the rest is history.
It's all about connections.
Right.
Alan reached out to me. I said, I'm not going to Honduras at this time. I changed my plans. He said, well, you can come here. And then he says, I know someone wonderful in Belize. He connected me with him. He's connected me to other people.
Yeah.
This is the man of connections. He has got the connections. He knows. He can tell you anyone's number. I mean, I'm sure he knows the number to my president. I don't know.
Can I have Michael Fassbender's?
Just go to him for any of your connection needs. He's got you covered.
Now, you're here primarily as a motivational speaker. You're also a blogger. But tell me about the message that you typically deliver. You spoke about courage. Is it predominantly to women, or is it to a wider audience?
It's to a wider audience. But my focus in the nomadic dreamer, it is to inspire connection, friendships across countries and cultures. I come from a background where there's just not a lot of cultural diversity, and so I've had to really change my way of thinking. And so I really inspire other people to connect with cultures, to open their mind, to open their heart, to not go in with these racist mindsets mindsets and just to go in and start connecting with cultures. So that's what I speak about, as well as, you know, I do all of these adventure activities, I do all of these things, and so I just speak about the importance of going out and facing your fears. Maybe it's something with your work. Maybe you want to start your own company or something, but you're like, I don't know, I don't have the answers, there's so many uncertainties. It's just going in and saying, what do I want in life? Finding out what it is that you want, and then having the courage to do it. That doesn't mean not having fear, because fear is a part of it. You have to recognize the fear and you have to do the things regardless of the fear. And so this goes along with the message as well.
And sometimes fear motivates us as well. It
Fear
branches
is
us into the
amazing.
unknown.
I welcome fear.
Yeah.
I have fear all the time. Every day of my life I have fear. I welcome it and I say, hello, fear. Good morning. I'm going to dominate you today. That's what I do. And I literally have fear every single day for different things. But
It's natural. Yeah.
exactly. And I have this mindset that if you are not uncomfortable, if you are not feeling a little bit outside of your comfort zone, you're not doing something right, because you need to actively be, outside of that comfort zone in order to grow. And that's what I found is.
Definitely.
Obviously, Sarah's going to be a great addition to your lineup this year. Talk to us about some of the other presenters that you're going to be having.
Well, let me tell you a little bit more about the segments that we're having, and I'll mention maybe one or two of the presenters, just to give you a recap. So in the first segment, we have digital travel trade, which I think is very important to our stakeholders because, OTAs or online travel agencies like Expedia, Book It, Hotels.com are constantly evolving and changing their business model. So I think being in tune and getting to know the trends within these type of online travel agencies is very important for our stakeholders. Within that, we have Herman Acevedo, who's the CEO of Falcorp, and he was actually the support group for us in our recent virtual trade show. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but it was a huge success. And so we made a case of that, and he's going to be presenting that to the rest of stakeholders that unfortunately didn't partake. We have a social media segment, and in that we have Sarah and we have Mike Corey. He's a YouTuber who's traveled the world too. He's also a filmmaker. So he's gonna be talking about the do's and don'ts about video digital marketing and also how to work with people like himself. In the creative strategy section, we have Google, Alejandro Rico, who's the VP of Latin America and Caribbean. And he's going to be talking about the Google brand story, like how you could tell your brand story through Google. Very important. I think there's so many different tools available to a lot of people, and they're free. I keep telling people this. When I got my Google certification a couple of years ago, I had to pay for that. No, everything is free. All you have to do is take the time, go online, and do the online courses. And then we also have on digital marketing, we have Diego Saldeño, who is from Gravity Media from New York, and he's going to be talking about how to, put together your digital strategy. I think that's one of the most difficult things for people. It can be overwhelming because you're like, so where do I start? Do I start with photos or start with video? It's kind of like a roadmap, and so he's going to be talking about that.
It's interesting because I think one of the things that has happened is that the way social media has evolved, a lot of people are kind of just playing catch up. You stumble into it, you try to figure it out, and then, am I doing it right? And there are ways to tell, but sometimes you don't know the ways to be able to find out. If you look at the landscape in Belize with your stakeholders, whether tourism industry and even others, as you pointed out, who do attend the summit, do you feel that we're having a better understanding as to how to interact with the rest of the world online and really represent ourselves?
I think, like I mentioned earlier, that digital transformation is happening, and it stems from the fact that our millennials in Belize are getting to positions like yourself, and we're transforming these businesses. And I think it's important, and sometimes it's not very easy. We have these older managing directors or marketing directors that are not very in tune with technology. So it's a hard sell for you within the company to sell that. So I think this platform helps to, I don't want to say alleviate that, but it helps to get the older folks, if they attend, to get the understanding that's needed to give the importance to digital marketing.
And simplifying the message is so important. Sarah, I want to talk to you about that because I know you know, in my previous work within communications, we used to have this joke that the technical person and the communications person will never get along because technical wants more, you know, give every detail of what we're doing, and a communications person will want to simplify the message. What's your advice to people in being able to ensure that you're getting out the relevant information, but not where it becomes overwhelming to the people that you're reaching out to?
Trial and error. Trial and error is, you have to get the feedback from the other people. You have to, talk with your followers. That is a really important thing, is try to interact with them. Even if you don't have many, interact with them. Get to know what they think about it. Is this material good? What do you want? That is something, sometimes we talk, but the most important thing is we must listen. And the way we do that is by listening to our followers. They tell us what they want to hear, what is good, what we could improve on. We have to be willing to just accept that criticism from them. Like maybe they say, you know, your material is absolutely terrible. So we have to be willing to hear that and go from there. But that is definitely what I would say, is just getting the advice and listening to other people, and then just, going with that.
Minor, tell us about the participants that you're trying to attract. I think for me, this kind of summit is not only good for just individuals, but also for government ministries. And I say that because the information that exists in different departments, it's for us, the people. And in Belize particularly, I think we're not that great at marketing and PR as it relates to government information. So tell us about who you're targeting.
Well, our primary target, again, is the hotels and tour operators. Most important, I think, the mid-tier, and more specifically, those that aren't doing much for themselves. You know, those that we want to convert or evangelize so that they can do more, Because if you look at the top 50 hotels in Belize, just to give an example, they're all doing great things. We all hear from them. We all know them, right? But while they're doing great and they're very advanced, we also want to look at the second layer of that. Like, okay, how many more can we add to that top 50, or to our top 100, and have them uplift themselves? I think that for me has always been one of the key objectives for having such an event, because I always do attend year in and year out. I attend these events, and it was the smaller stakeholders that walked up to me and they were like, Minor, you're always going at these events. It would be really great if you could do something in Belize. We don't have the money. We can't afford to jump on a plane and pay $1,500 US to attend one of these digital marketing seminars abroad, So, and what a better way to bring some of these people that I meet, and I think they're great presenters, back home to build that capacity in Belize.
And I think it's also about encouraging people to go beyond the plateau, because a lot of the hotels, they have maybe 10,000 followers, and then they stay that way for a really long time, and they always get just maybe 1,000 likes or 2,000 likes, and that's what.
And no engagement.
There's no engagement. So you want to encourage that
and that has also been one of the, for us, planning this summit has always been sort of like a very challenging balance. Do we cater it to the very advanced? Or do we find a balance between, okay, let's sprinkle a couple of very advanced stuff, but we also want to cater to the beginners. To the beginners, and we've gotten feedback at the end of each summit where some people walk up to me and they're like, oh, Minor, it was very basic, I only like one or two speakers. And I was like, in my head, I was like, that's what I wanted, But then I got somebody else walked up to me and was like, wow, Minor, I learned so much. I didn't grab the last two speakers. They were like over my head. And so it's like, where do I find that? Where do we find that balance, So it's always a challenge.
So what would you say, whose needs will be met with this year's summit?
Well, we try to meet everyone's needs. I don't want to discourage anyone, but it's pretty hard, But again, our niche focus is those that aren't doing well for themselves, or those that think that they're doing a lot of things, but they're not doing it the right way.
Now, I think Minor mentioned before that there are some people who are very traditional in this industry and in others as well, that when they think of bloggers, they think of somebody who's looking for a freebie, and I've heard it, like, oh, you just bring them here, they take a couple pictures, and what do you say, what will be your message as a blogger yourself and as someone who travels around the world about the benefit of having someone come in, stay at your hotel, have your experience, and share it through a blog?
Well, bloggers can add a lot of value.
Yeah.
That's what I say is like they provide good videos. What I say more than anything is they come with trust because they have a following of people. And I know that my followers, they want to go somewhere where they don't want to go out and do the first step. They want to go somewhere where someone has already gone. They don't, because it's usually like in America, they have 1 week of vacation. So they want to go very organized.
Yeah.
And so they want to go somewhere that someone's already had the experience. And so that's what I bring is trust because people have my experience. I talk about it. I do videos. I do pictures. And what I do with my blogging is I try to get people to fall in love with the destination by showing the people, showing the landscapes, and just getting people really connected with the place. And so that's what bloggers can provide because it's one thing to have just pay someone to write for you and say, okay, please write this article. This is what I want you to say. And it's from a person that you don't really have a face to. And then it's a whole different thing to have, the nomadic dreamer, she was there and she had this experience. Look at this. Oh, she had a picture here and a video. And she had a great time there. It's like you feel the connection. And they can contact me. They can get on my website. They can say, so what are your pointers? What do you have to say? It's a connection there. So that's what I would say the number one thing is bloggers have trust of people.
And I like that because it's very organic. When it comes from a hotel giving me a review or showing me pictures of their place, it seems it's staged, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes from a blogger that I follow, it looks very natural. It looks like they're actually enjoying it or they're more honest. And I definitely relate to that, especially, and it also feels as if though I can do it because she's just like me, or she's my age, or she's interested in the same thing. So it's really
it helps
organic.
to validate your brands online.
Yeah.
That's what it does. And I think to your point, Marlene, and we had a discussion a couple of days ago when Sarah got here. There's a difference between bloggers and influencers, and a lot of people don't know. And we're going to be talking about that at the summit.
Oh wow!
So
what's an influencer?
Well, like I mentioned, we're going to be talking about that at the summit. But there is.
You want to tell us just one little tip?
You have to go
But
to the summit to hear the answer.
Yeah. But there's one thing I wanted to ask because I think one of the fears that people have is that it may be negative. And I want to ask you, how do you counter that? Because, Jamie said something very important, that you are expecting honesty. And I, when I follow people and it's all daisies and roses all day long, I'm like, okay, that's not real,
Yeah.
There are challenges in traveling. There are people you meet who aren't nice. There are people who don't offer the service that you really expect. How do you balance that even in your own blogging?
Every single situation is different. Everything. And there's bad and there's good. And so that's what I say. I've had a lot of negative experiences and I've had amazing experiences. So I think that it's just realizing that that is the case and just...
That's life.
Yeah.
But do you integrate it into your writing? I think that's my question because I think that's the fear that people... What if I invite a blogger and they don't love it? Or what if my blogger comes and enjoys the experience but has one bad interaction with someone? How do you encourage people to kind of reach that balance? Because you do want honesty.
You want to write it, but at the same time, there are just people in life that are so negative. You could have an amazing, beautiful trip and then someone serves you the food bad and they're like, this was the worst vacation, this is the worst trip of my life. Or someone, maybe your waitress was having a bad day that day, maybe your child was sick or something and they didn't give you the service that you wanted or the hotel or something like that. And that could, for someone, it could be just a tragedy. And for me, that's like, it would just give me more of a motive to explore, like, did you have a bad day today, and make that connection with the person. Okay. So it's all in the opinions of each person. Like for me, there's really not a really negative experience. I've had plenty of negative experiences, but meaning I can turn every single negative experience into something beautiful. So in the end, I'm the winner. Even if I have a bad situation, even if someone robs me, anything that happens, it always turns out to be good.
There's a lesson that
there's a teachable
there's
moment.
always a lesson, and I think that's what people want. They want to, people want to know how to turn their negative situations into positive, and that's what I can help people to do. And so for me, I do write almost always positive things. But I will say, for example, something bad happened to me. However, you guys, this is the great thing about it.
Yeah.
And so I always add kind of like the bad and the good.
To balance it.
Always end with the good.
Yeah. It's having that attitude of gratitude that we're talking about this morning.
That's what I was listening to that. I thought that was great because that is so important. And just having empathy, you know, some people may have a bad day and just don't go with so many expectations. People come to us with these expectations of, I'm going to give you one night in a hotel, but I want this and 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 this. Okay,
it's just me. There's just one nomadic dreamer.
I have one example, and you know, we're gonna push some buttons here, but let's talk about it because there was quite a reaction to it, and we spoke about cultural sensitivity. We spoke about being able to use influencers. That's why I was gonna push you there. When the Olympian Ali Reisman came to Belize and tweeted about being asked if her father was her boyfriend, there was a huge reaction to it. And she was also told that she'd gained weight. Now, when we talk about cultural sensitivity, this is definitely it. Because in Belize, it is very common, we all know that, to meet somebody and say, what? You'll get big! Which isn't common all over the world. So I think that is a great lesson. But how do you turn this now? So this, when I read it, I thought to myself, that's Belize. You know, that's your waitress being friendly. Now, people don't know that, but she also tweeted, about it being such a horrible experience for her. So how do you turn something like that?
Well, if I could take a chance.
I saw you grimace, so please do.
So two things there. Going back to another example we had back at the BTB, we brought this journalist and he wrote a beautiful spread on Belize, but there was one paragraph in the middle of his article that wasn't so rosy. And I remember all of us at work were like, oh man, everybody was like, what do we do? Like he's already written it. And so we reached out to him and we said, we really enjoyed your story, but there was just this one piece, and he's like, well, I gotta, like what Sarah was mentioning, I gotta throw in some of the bad to keep my readers engaged and have them know that I have an honest point of view, that I didn't get paid to write this, because that happened. And that's where I was alluding to the influencer and a blogger. There's that very thin line of, I'm gonna pay you $40,000 and you're gonna put a beautiful picture and you're gonna get me 5 million likes and 10,000 followers, and I can guarantee that, versus I wanna tell the real story and I'm gonna have an authentic experience, and that's what I'm gonna portray. Whatever that experience is gonna be for me, I'm gonna portray it. So, it's in your best interest to show me your best side, so that's very thin, and you can do that, and think about, how bloggers came about. They were freestyle writers, who then open a blog, but at that time they were pitching to various publications. And back in 2011, BTV started a program called Road Warrior, which is still going on today, where we took freestyle travel writers who went through a Matador U program to become bloggers, but they still had that innate in them, okay, I'm still pitching to National Geographic. And so when they came to Belize, they not only publishing stories on their blog, but they're also publishing stories on National Geographic, on a farm magazine, and that goes beyond what you really ask them to do. So again, going back to the difference between a blogger and an influencer, and we've seen online many instances where influencers just copy and paste what they were told to put on their Instagram, and like even how much they got paid for it, and they just publish on their Instagram.
Hashtag ad.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is becoming, well, let me get your response to my previous question in terms of spinning the negative to the positive and cultural sensitivity.
Can you repeat the question?
With the issue with the tweet that came out from the Olympian regarding being told she'd gain weight and that her father was her boyfriend.
Well, I think that influencers or bloggers, everyone has the opportunity to change this idea. You know, bloggers can go in and talk about their experience across the countries and their beautiful interactions with people, and just get people to connect with the Belizean people and realize that that's just the way they are. And, you know, it's not anything bad. It's just the way they are. They're just friendly, loving people. And so I think that bloggers are voices. And so they have the opportunity to go out and, you know, if there is one bad experience, one negative thing in the media, they can go in and put their voice out there, and many voices, 100 good voices will hopefully beat that one negative voice out there.
And so let's get the details of the event.
Perfect. So the Digital Marketing Summit is slated for this Friday at the Belize Biltmore Plaza. It starts at 8 o'clock. The price is $200 to attend, which, if you ask me, is very reasonable. It helps to offset the cost of bringing all these international speakers. And it wraps up at 4 o'clock, and then it's followed by a networking cocktail with these same presenters. So you get a little extra time to mingle with them and ask them those questions that maybe you didn't want to ask during the event. And you know, we're only catering to 150 people. We have a couple spots remaining. So we still have some available. So if everybody could register today, today's the deadline to register. You know, to come to this great event. And you guys are also invited.
Definitely.
All right, so once again, the Digital Summit takes place on Friday. You will be able to hear more from Sarah as she does a presentation as a part of the summit, and several other speakers have been invited as well. It's $200 to register, a one-day event with a lot to learn from the experience. Thank you for stopping in.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about making beautiful music.